Before we begin tonight's story, make sure you hit subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to stay close when the lights go out.
It was supposed to be a simple weekend road trip. Nothing fancy. Just me, Rachel, and the long stretch of highway cutting through the woods of West Virginia. The GPS showed a smooth 4-hour drive from our city to a small mountain town we'd booked a cabin in, but that's not where we ended up. The first sign of trouble came around dusk. The sun had started bleeding into the trees, and the GPS lost its signal. Rachel was asleep beside me, her head resting against the window. I remember thinking how peaceful she looked, while everything outside felt strange, too quiet, too still. I slowed down when I saw a sign half covered by vines, said Old Creek Motel, Vacancy. Rachel woke up and frowned. "Was that on the map?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. I shook my head. "No, but it's getting dark. Maybe we should stop here for the night." The road leading to the motel wasn't on the GPS either. When I turned onto it, the car lights hit trees leaning close to the path, their branches scraping the sides like long fingers. The place came into view after a few minutes, a faded neon sign flickering in the dark, a long single-story building with maybe 8 rooms, all doors facing the parking lot. It looked like something out of a 1970s postcard, old but clean, almost too preserved. We parked. The only light came from the reception window. Inside, an old man sat behind the counter. He didn't look up when we entered, just said, "Room 60 for the night, cash only." Rachel looked uneasy. "You don't take cards?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. He said, "Machines down," flatly, eyes still on a dusty ledger. There was something off about his face, too pale, skin stretched tight, as if he hadn't been outside in years. I paid him anyway. He handed me an old metal key with a tag that read Room 6. When we reached our room, Rachel whispered, "This place feels wrong." I tried to joke. "It's just old school. Think of it as vintage horror chic." She didn't laugh. The room smelled faintly of mold and pine cleaner. Everything looked unused. Bed neatly made, curtains drawn, an old TV in the corner. I turned the faucet. The water ran clear. The heater worked. Still, the air felt heavy, like we were breathing someone else's memories. We unpacked a little, and I decided to take a short walk outside. Rachel stayed behind to shower. The parking lot was empty except for our car and an old pickup near the far end. No sound of insects, no wind, no traffic. Just silence so thick it pressed on my ears. That's when I noticed the oddest thing. No power lines. The motel had lights on, yet there were no cables running from anywhere. When I went back inside, Rachel was sitting on the bed, wrapped in a towel, shaking. "There's someone next door," she whispered. "I heard footsteps in the bathroom wall." I checked. The wall was solid. Room 7's window was dark. "Probably old pipes," I said. But she wasn't convinced. We decided to sleep early. Around midnight, I woke up to a noise outside. The sound of gravel crunching. I looked through the curtain slit and saw a man standing in the parking lot. He wasn't moving, just facing our door. I froze. He wore a dark jacket and a hat pulled low. I couldn't see his face. Then, without a sound, he turned and walked into the woods behind the motel. I didn't wake Rachel. I told myself, maybe it was another guest, maybe the owner. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the dusty blinds. I stepped outside. expecting to see other cars or maybe the old man from reception. Nothing. The pickup was gone. The office door was shut. Rachel came out holding her phone. No signal again. I decided we'd check out and leave early. But when we walked to the reception, the door was locked. Inside, the counter was empty. No sign of the old man. "Maybe he's cleaning rooms," I said, trying to sound calm. We waited 10 minutes, then 20. Finally, I went around back to look for him. That's when I saw the door marked storage. It was slightly open. Inside was a dim room filled with broken furniture and old photo frames. Dust covered everything. I picked up one frame, brushed it clean, and froze. It was a black and white photo of the same motel, but it looked decades older. The cars in the parking lot from the 1950s, and right in the center, in front of room 6, stood a couple, smiling at the camera. They looked exactly like us. Rachel called from behind me, "Tom, we need to go!" When I turned around, her face was pale. She pointed toward the parking lot. Our car doors were open, the trunk too, and standing next to it was the same man from last night. He was staring straight at us. We ran inside, slammed the door, locked it. Rachel was shaking uncontrollably. "We need to call the police! There's no signal!" I snapped. I peeked through the curtain again. The man was gone. But the car, it wasn't ours anymore. The color had changed. It was dusty, old, the license plate rusted and unreadable. I stepped back, heart pounding. "Rachel, something's wrong with time here." She started crying. "I told you we shouldn't have stopped." Then the TV flickered on by itself. Static filled the screen, and through the noise, a faint voice whispered our names. "Tom, Rachel." The power went out. We were left in complete darkness. The moment the lights went out, the air changed. I could hear Rachel breathing fast beside me, her hand clutching my arm. I felt around in the dark until I found my phone. Still no signal, but the flashlight worked. The beam cut through the blackness and landed on the TV screen. The static had stopped. Now the words "Check out time" glowed in faint red letters across the glass. "Tom, what does that mean?" Rachel whispered. "I don't know," I said, "but we're leaving now." We grabbed our bags and opened the door. Cold air rushed in. The parking lot looked different. The pavement was cracked, grass pushing through. The sign that had glowed last night was now broken, hanging by a single wire. It looked like no one had stayed here in decades. "Maybe there's a town nearby," I said, trying to convince both of us. Rachel just nodded, eyes wide. We hurried to the car, but when I tried the key, nothing. The ignition was dead. The car battery wasn't just drained, it looked corroded, eaten away. I popped the hood, but the metal was rusted like it had been sitting here for years. Rachel started crying softly. "Tom, look!" She was pointing at the forest. Through the trees, figures were moving, slow, silent shapes walking between the trunks. Too far to see their faces, but close enough to feel watched. "We're going," I said. "We'll walk until we find the main road." We took only what we could carry. As we stepped away, I looked back at the motel one last time. All the doors were now open. Every single one. The path to the woods was narrow, full of roots and wet leaves. I tried to stay calm, to keep Rachel close, but the forest felt endless. After what felt like an hour, the trees thinned, and we saw a dirt road ahead. Relief flooded through me, until I noticed a sign nailed on a tree. Old Creek Motel. Vacancy. Rachel stopped. No, this can't be. It's the same sign, I said quietly. But we walked away from it. That's when I realized something. The woods weren't leading us out. They were circling us back. We turned around, but the forest had changed. The path we came from was gone, just trees stretching into darkness. I heard something behind us. Footsteps, slow, steady, matching ours. I spun around with the flashlight. Nothing. Rachel's voice trembled. Someone's following us. We keep moving, I said. But after another few minutes, the flashlight flickered and died. The world went black again. Then the sound came, whispers, low, echoing, coming from all around. Tom! Rachel! The same voice from the TV. Rachel clung to me. Please tell me this isn't happening. I couldn't. Suddenly, pale shapes began to appear between the trees. Faces, dozens of them, men, women, even children, all gray, hollow-eyed, watching silently. Their clothes looked old, like from different times. One of them stepped forward, a woman in a tattered dress. Her voice was faint but clear. You shouldn't have stopped here. Who are you? I asked. She tilted her head. Guests, just like you. Then behind her, I saw the man with the hat, the same one who stood outside our room. He spoke in a low, gravelly tone. It's too late to leave. You've checked in. Rachel screamed and grabbed my hand. We ran. Branches whipped our faces. Roots caught our feet. But we didn't stop until we saw the faint light of the motel again. Only now it looked alive again. Neon glowing, rooms lit, the office door open. Inside, the old man was behind the counter, like nothing had happened. I slammed my hands on the desk. What is this place? He looked up slowly. You made a wrong turn. Rachel shouted, We want to leave! The old man smiled weakly. You can't leave what's already gone. What does that mean? I demanded. He turned the ledger around. Names of everyone who stayed here. I scanned the pages and froze. Our names were written there. Tom and Rachel. Checked in 1987. Checked out. Never. My hands went cold. That's not possible. He looked at me with empty eyes. You made a wrong turn. Rachel backed away, shaking her head. No, we're not dead. The man whispered, Not yet. The lights began to flicker again. I grabbed Rachel's arm and ran for the door. We burst outside, straight into blinding daylight. We stopped in the middle of the road, gasping. The motel was gone. Nothing but trees and an empty clearing. Our car was gone too. We walked until we found another highway. A truck driver stopped for us. He rolled down his window and said, You two okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I forced a laugh. Just car trouble. He nodded. There's a town about 15 miles that way, but you won't find much. The only thing that used to be out here was some old motel, burned down years ago. Rachel and I looked at each other. When? I asked. He thought for a moment. Late 80s, I think? Heard some couple died in a fire there. Real shame. My stomach turned. What were their names? The driver shrugged. Don't remember. Something like Tom and Rachel, maybe? Rachel went pale. I couldn't breathe. He waved us in. Hop on. I'll give you a ride. We climbed in the back. As the truck started moving, I looked out at the trees. And there it was again, through the branches. Just for a moment, the neon sign. Old Creek Motel, Vacancy. It flickered once, then vanished. That night, we reached a small town. We stayed in a local inn. Everything looked normal. People, lights, cars. But when I looked at the mirror in our room, for a second, the reflection behind us wasn't the inn. It was that same motel room. Same wallpaper, same key tag on the nightstand. Rachel didn't see it. I didn't tell her. The next morning, we planned to leave town, but the car we borrowed from the sheriff's office had a strange smell. Old pine and mold. And when I checked the glove box, a small metal key fell out. Room 6.
Kindly subscribe the channel and comment if you liked the video. Thanks for watching.